Okay, so we are here today with Miss Abby Zeckmeister, color specialist extraordinaire. Tell us what you do, Abby.
Thank you. So I'm a virtual color consultant with Sherwin. Clients sign up online. They choose a time, date, method of consultation, and then I help them virtually with colors. They send me photos. We talk about what they like, what they don't like, and provide them with options of colors that they can choose from to paint their house.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So I know that there's some questions that people probably have as they're preparing for this. I mean,
Sure.
Some people are getting ready to move. Some people are just wanting to make a big change in their home because they're not planning to go anywhere.
Yeah.
What is a color scheme, and how do you actually put one together? How do you recommend putting one together?
Yeah, great question. Fairly complex because there can be different types of color schemes. But a color scheme is essentially a palette or a mixture of colors that all works together, whether it be from different sides of the color wheel, but they all kind of blend and work and flow to create this palette or color scheme, or it could be from opposite sides of the color wheel, or from one continuous family, which would be monochromatic.
Okay, cool. So what are the different paint finishes? Like, we know color a little bit. What are the finishes and how do you use them?
Great question. So I would say flat, matte, satin, semi-gloss, and gloss are the most popular finishes.
Okay.
Semi-gloss and gloss are going to be more for a specialty project, or maybe it needs a specialty finish of some sort, depending on the material. Otherwise, I would say flat, matte, and satin are my most popular. And within that, flat is going to be really very popular for getting ready to sell, putting on the market, moving, any like type of rental scenario. It touches up really super easy. We have matte, falls in the middle. I'll circle back to that one. And then we have satin. Satin has been very popular with families. It washes really easy, super scrubbable, durable. However, it can be a little bit trickier to touch up to because of that sheen. Okay. So matte, circling back, falls in the middle of flat and satin. And so it will give you washability and durability, but if you do need to touch it up, it touches up easier than a satin. So matte and satin are both very popular for families for those reasons.
Cool, that's good to know, especially if you have a busy home, animals, children, anything.
Yes.
To make things moving around. So I wanted to ask you, I noticed that there are so many shades of white. What in the world? What are your top 3 shades of white?
Sure. So I would say whites are king right now. It is the huge trend, super popular, just really clean, fresh, crisp colors. So I would say my top 3 personally would be 7005 pure white. It is what I like to consider my second brightest white. It is just clean, crisp. It has a tiny drop of gold, but you don't really notice it. It has warmth, but you don't know how or why. It's just kind of a nice clean white that works with just about everything. From there, I would say my second most favorite would be Greek Villa 7551. I know, doesn't the name sound?
Sounds fabulous.
It's just as beautiful as the name. It's a gorgeous color. It's really light and airy, but it's got this light layer of cream to it. So it's just got this elegant feeling. And then we also have Soji White 7042. Soji white is interesting because it's a little bit of a darker white. There are lighter whites and darker whites. Mm-hmm. The darker whites just have a little bit more color to them, but they're still from that white section, so still very light and airy. And so that Soji white I like to describe as being a modern beige, in the fact that it's not overly red, it's not overly yellow, it's warm, but it's neutral. It even has a tiny drop of gray so that it's not overly warm. So it's kind of an interesting combination.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we can pare it down to your 3 favorites at least. How many are there of white?
Of white, I believe there's 100 and some. We just came out with an Emerald Designer Edition paint, actually right about the same time as COVID, unfortunately. But in that, there's 200 new colors, and those can only be made in this Emerald Designer Edition paint, but it has a brighter white base, so you can achieve these clean, bright, crisp whites. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is so cool. homes have open floor plans these days. This has been a huge trend, and people open up floor plans even. So how do you go about choosing a color for an open floor plan, or colors, that is, you know?
Sure. I would say the main thing is starting with your main color. You want one color that flows throughout stairwells, hallways, living room, dining room, kitchen, main areas. Then if you wanted to pop some accents, and are accents in, or are they not, I would say yes. Okay. And it's really listening to the architecture or watching the architecture. What does the house call for? So if it's all truly open, some things that I would look for would possibly be a tray ceiling and an entryway. Oh, okay. Or a kitchen island. A fireplace wall with the built-ins, just the little pieces around it, or even above if there's no stone above the fireplace. Just those small areas can really be very impactful with color.
Cool. That's great. Yeah. What colors make rooms look bigger? Like if you have smaller size rooms and you just want them to feel bigger, what are the colors you would use? Yeah,
this is one of my favorite questions. So cooler colors, which are blues and greens and purples, but blues and greens specifically. It's the sea, the sky, the foliage all around us, right? So it's actually universally the two most popular colors because of that. And so because of the popularity, and we see them in so many different varieties, they tend to fall into the background a little bit more, and so they recede. Now, warmer colors, if you think about that on the opposite side of the spectrum, think about the sun. So the sun's rays, they're coming towards you to hug you. And so the reds, oranges, and yellows will come towards you. They'll kind of hug you, and they're making that room feel smaller. Browns kind of give a cave or a log cabin kind of feel, right? So again, that's kind of that cozy, warm feeling as well.
Nice. That makes sense. That's really cool. And the blues being like expansive, like the sky.
Exactly.
Ocean. That's great.
Exactly.
That's great. That's great. What are the most common mistakes you find with people choosing colors?
Oh, sure. So first of all, each category has its own kind of rules and different things that can affect it, but I would say one would be yellows. Yellows going 2 shades lighter will help to make the color not so intense. Yellow reflects off of itself and intensifies when you see it painted, so always going 2 shades lighter than anything that you like will typically get you in the range that you're actually looking for. But more popular, I would say, would be grays. So grays are very tricky for people, and I like to divide them into 2 different categories even. So one being elephant grays, which are gray browns or grayish, and one being silver gray, silver or blue gray. So silver equals blue, and not everybody realizes that. And so if you see silver in a gray color, it's going to turn blue or purple or even green sometimes. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we think of elephants as being gray, but they're actually a gray brown or a warmer gray. When we think about how to choose between those, oftentimes you can look at your woodwork. If your woodwork has warmer colors to it, maybe it's an oak or a maple, something with a little bit of a yellow or orange tone to it. If you do something in the more silver category, it will pull on the color of the wood. So your wood will become more orange, or your walls will become more blue, because they're opposite from each other, so they make each other stand out. Whereas elephant gray or grayish beige, the gray-beige combination, is going to pull on the grain of the wood rather than color itself. So it depends on what look you're going for. Neither way is wrong, but they can do very different things.
Interesting. That's really cool. Good information we're getting here. Okay, so we've kind of got the paint color choices. What is the most common mistake when painting a room?
Sure. I would say most of the time people just, it takes time, right? It's not something that you can just snap your fingers and have it done.
Why?
I know. Although it is beautiful when it gets done, right? Yes. So oftentimes people will just try to do one coat. Our paints are really thick, so they'll cover really well. However, if you get right up to the wall, you can still sometimes see a roller mark or a brush mark, or maybe a little sneak of that color from before underneath. So that second coat really just gives it that professional, crisp, like just beautiful look to it.
Awesome. Awesome. So how important really is primer?
Primer is pretty important.
A Another step.
Another step. So first of all, it can help cover up inconsistencies. If you don't use a primer, you can get inconsistencies. If it was previously rolled, right, and maybe it was heavier in some areas, if you don't prime, some of that can come through. Or maybe if it's a bolder color, you can still see some of that sneak through. So yeah, that can be huge. Also, primer is typically less expensive than what the top coat is. So it will help to reduce your costs by using a primer as well.
Got it. So a little extra step, but a little less expensive, potentially.
Correct.
That's great. Okay, so finally, what is the color now? What is the most popular interior home color now?
I'm kind of laughing to myself as we ask this because I would say going back to the whites and what are my top whites? Pure white. That top white 7005 is really my most, in my opinion, one of my most popular tones right now, just in general. It's beautiful interior, it's beautiful exterior, it's just clean. You really can't go wrong. Goes with just about anything. We also have our color of the year this year is 9130 Evergreen Fog. And Evergreen Fog I think the name is beautiful too. It's just kind of this medium smoky green color without being overly smoky. And so the nice thing about it is it looks great on walls. It looks great on cabinetry. It looks great just about virtually everywhere. So, and even those two colors used together, pure white and evergreen, beautiful. So yeah, I would say evergreen and pure white are my top two, at least for me.
That's awesome. Well, awesome. Well, so Abby Zechmeister, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today. And I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you. So what is the best way for them to do that?
Oh, thank you. So go to www.swcolorconsult.com and fill out the request form. There's a whole team of designers that work with myself. So it might not be me specifically, but we're all wonderful and would love to help you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Coming from personal experience, I know how absolutely wonderful and what a great opportunity it is to get to work with a professional before you do your painting. So please reach out and I'll include that link here below. Thanks again for your time, Abby.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Awesome.